Well, Matt, we thought we were going to talk about a World Series sweep today, but here we are. We're going to prepare to talk about Game 5 of the World Series tonight.
Well, the Yanks are at this point delaying the inevitable, but it's at this point. It's been a disappointing World Series. I mean, listen, don't get me wrong, a lot of good games, but it's been a very disappointing World Series as to where we are right now.
Oh, yeah, we'll start talking about Game 4 to recap it here, but, the Dodgers went with a bullpen game yesterday, and then you also talk about the Yankees offense finally showing up, with the exception for Aaron Judge, who still needs to find himself.
It's I mean, Aaron Judge did finally have some good contact hit. He went like 1 for 4, 1 for 5. It's still not great, but he's trying to find his footing. I mean, Anthony Volpe hit the grand slam yesterday, which is amazing. Great. Gleyber Torres had a 3-run home run. It was 11-4. It was a 7-run victory. So you know what? It's good, but it's too little, too late at this point. I think that even though the Yankees got 11 runs in on the board, you were number one playing against the Dodgers' 4 worst relievers. So that's number one. Number two, playing against the bullpen game is not really exactly amazing when you consider that, like you said, they delayed the inevitable and they were up 3-0. I get the purpose of playing well, wanting to avoid a sweep at home, but again, it's just delaying the inevitable. And then number three, one thing I also wanted to bring up, there was a little storyline in Game 4 that I want to bring up, and this is something that we've talked about before when it comes to fans. In the first inning of Game 4, I think it was Gleyber Torres had a pop up to the foul right territory, and Mookie Betts tried to make a catch, and then two guys tried to nab the ball out of his hands and almost tried to break his wrist. Those two men were thrown out immediately, and news came out that they were suspended for Yankee games for the entirety of next year. I want to get your take on this first before I expand on my thoughts a little bit.
This has to really stop because we saw fan interference in Game 1 on Gleyber Torres, which resulted in a ground rule double. And then the fans interfered with Mookie Betts trying to catch a foul ball, and that was an out for sure. But why would they do a thing like that? That's just not any class.
It's not. It's not. I mean, we've seen a lot of fan interference this postseason. I mean, the fans are kind of getting passionate. And I understand it as a Yankee fan. You're down 3-0 in a World Series. You're probably going to get swept in that situation. Now it's 3-1. It's not really going to matter. And you're kind of upset, but you can't really do that to Mookie Betts. And we saw a similar situation in the NLDS with the Padres and Dodgers. Remember when Dodger fans tried to throw a baseball at Jurickson Profar? And I think those fans got kicked out. I'm not 100% sure. If they didn't to kick out the fans, they definitely upgraded security. But I agree with you. This has to stop because the fans are there to provide a vibrant atmosphere for the game. You're there to enjoy the game. You're giving your money to watch a baseball game in a World Series, nonetheless. And those two fans had no idea what to do in that situation other than just try to be jerks about it. And, they were lucky that they didn't break Mookie Betts' wrist. Otherwise, there would have been some federal fines for that. It's unnecessary.
They'll be refunded tonight. And then I also read that Jesse Rogers just tweeted this, that Austin, can't really say his last name, Cabosiano, he got the call today from the Yankees today about being banned tonight. Was told if he or his friend try to get in with other tickets, they will be arrested at the door, and that they were hoping for a short-term ban.
Wow. Well, that says it all right there. I think honestly, the fans need to calm down a little bit. I know it's the playoffs, it's good baseball, good action, but please just enjoy the game and don't become a distraction because that's what's happened in 2 occasions now. 2 occasions.
Oh yeah, it was. And then talk about Game 3 on Monday night. I mean, that was the Yankees just went ice cold on Walker Buehler, and Walker Buehler pitched phenomenally well. This was the best Walker Buehler version that we've seen. But in games 1 and 2, you got to talk about Game 1, walk-off grand slam by Freddie Freeman. Game 2, drama in the ninth, but Alex Vesia got the save. Jose Trevino flew out to Edmond. The first 2 games went the Dodgers. The first 3 games basically went the Dodgers' way.
I think the best game so far of this World Series was Game 1. Even though it didn't go the Yankees' way, it was a very, very competitive game throughout. Yeah, and Giancarlo Stanton hit the ball to Oregon on a 2-run home run. Freddie Freeman had the walk-off grand slam. I think the one thing that really confused me about Game 1 was why did Aaron Boone put in Nestor Cortez when you had Tim Hill, a lefty that was already fresh and ready to go when Nestor hadn't pitched in 5 weeks. And then you saw what happened at the end of Game 1 in the 10th inning. You saw Nestor had a fly out to left that was caught by Verdugo on what was an amazing effort. And then you also had they intentionally walked Mookie, which I didn't understand. And then Freddie Freeman hit the go-ahead grand slam. And that was Game 1. Game 2, you saw the Dodgers and Yankees try to trade blows. Yankees had the bases loaded, and then they couldn't capitalize at the very end, and that put them in a hole. And then, like you said, Game 3 was kind of an ice-cold game for the Yankees. But you'd think that Game 4 would spark the Yankees. Like I said, I think it's probably too little too late at this point.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely agree. Even if this game goes 6, I think the Dodgers will win this at home no matter what. But Game 5 tonight, it's a rematch of Game 1. Garrett Cole versus Jack Flaherty. But you know what? The Yankees are going to expect Garrett Cole to really give them a lot of length in this start because Luis Gil last night, he looked good for the first couple innings, but that 5th inning, he started to blow it.
Yeah, I mean, 4 innings for Luis Gil. He started to lose command of his pitching. He walked a couple of batters. That forced Tim Hill to step in. Tim Hill did the job. You had 5 innings from your bullpen guys. I think that the problem with the Yankees right now, you had to use 5 relievers for 5 innings. And that's a problem because you need Garrett Cole, as you said, to go 6 or 7, maybe 7 if you're lucky. But if he goes 6 innings, I would consider that enough for now. But if I'm the Yankees, use Marcus Stroman. Use Tommy Kahnle. Well, Tommy Kahnle's good tonight. Tommy Kahnle's going to be ready to go because he didn't pitch last night. So Tommy Kahnle's going to be good to go. I would give Marcus Stroman a chance. Nestor didn't pitch last night, so you have some arms that are ready to go for tonight's game. Should Garrett Cole go 6 innings or 7 or what the case may be? But I agree with you. I think it's probably going to be a really tough battle for the Yankees at this point. And plus, this is the second time that both teams are seeing their opposing pitchers since Game 1. So it's going to be interesting. But I think, like I said, even if the Yankees win Game 5, you mentioned this on social media, Game 6 on Friday would be Fernando Valenzuela's birthday. And I think the Dodgers would, number 1, want to win it at home in front of the fans. And number 2, win it on their legend's birthday.
Oh, yeah. So basically, Yankee fans are going to come in loud tonight. They're going to come in not wanting to see a World Series celebration on their field.
Yeah, I mean that's the worst. I mean that happened last year with the Texas Rangers when they won in Arizona in Game 5. That's as an opposing team, you don't want to see a celebration on your home turf. We saw that in Cleveland with the Yankees in the ALCS, and I don't think anyone wants to see that happen again, especially not in New York.
Oh yeah. I mean, Yankee fans would riot if the Dodgers were to win tonight and do the celebration on their field.
Oh, it'd be bad. It'd be really, really bad.
Because what they're going to have to do is, they got to get the podium out. Rob Manfred's going to be up there to present the trophy.
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably be hearing a lot of Yankee fans booing the commissioner.
Oh yeah, that's likely to happen.
What I want to hear is that assuming if this game goes to Game 6 and if the Dodgers win the World Series at home,
yeah,
I want to see Dodger fans heckle at the commissioner.
So you want to go back home that bad, huh?
Kind of, in a way, like Rob Manfred's probably going to be up there presenting the trophy. Kevin Burkhardt will be emceeing the trophy presentation. Rob Manfred's going to be up on that stage, and Dodger fans are probably going to just heckle at the commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. The only thing I would say is if you're the Dodgers, you kind of want to put this series away tonight because you don't want to give the Yankees any hope. If you give them hope, they're going to climb back and they're going to recognize, hey, we have a chance at winning this thing. It's kind of like 2004 ALCS. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Yankees are kind of, at a loss. And like I said, I think it's too little too late. But if I'm the Dodgers, I want to put the series away as soon as possible. I know winning in California is nice to do it in front of fans, and I know the circumstances with Fernando Valenzuela's birthday, but if you're the Dodgers, you want to get it over with.
Absolutely. I mean, if they win tonight, I would. The Yankee fans would probably just leave
Yeah.
the stadium immediately.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and yeah, I'm probably not going to watch Game 5 because I'm pretty sure I'm going to know the outcome before it even happens. But I'm going to watch highlights. Don't get me wrong. I hardly watched Game 4, but I will tell you this: I did see the Volpe Grand Slam. I did see a lot of the highlights. Game 1 through 3 was frustrating as it was, and I think for Yankee fans like me, we're kind of just accepting defeat at this point. So rather than put ourselves through the hard torture, we want to avoid it. But again, we'll see.
Just got word that assuming if the Dodgers win, the parade for the World Series will either be this Friday or on Monday.
Ooh, okay.
So that just got word on that from the Los Angeles. It was posted on social media, and it was also on the social media pages of Dodgers baseball.
Okay.
That the parade, that the Los Angeles Sheriff's Office will be closed on either day.
Wow. Okay.
So I think we're gonna have a parade no matter what. But my dream right now is for the Dodgers to clinch the World Series back at Dodger Stadium on Friday night.
I know. I mean, we'll. It depends on how Game 5 goes. If Game 5 goes their way, you can kind of throw their plan out the window. Like I said, Game 5 should be interesting how it goes. But like I said, I think that the outcome's been decided.
Do you really think this is probably the last time you see Garrett Cole on the mound? I don't really think it is as a Yankee because he has an opt-out clause. I feel like the Yankees are going to keep Garrett Cole.
I mean, the Yankees are in a tough situation because it's not even just Garrett Cole. If he opts out of his contract, you want to bring him back, but then you also got Juan Soto, who you got to focus on too. The Yankees have a lot of up-and-coming free agents this offseason, and I think the main reason you want to win this World Series, if you can, which I don't think they're going to, is try to bring back the key contributors from this past season. And Juan Soto has been getting some traction from the Dodgers. We've known this for a couple days now. But I think he stays in New York. I think that there's also going to be Steve Cohen trying to interrupt plans. It's going to be interesting with the whole Juan Soto sweepstakes. But I think that with Garrett Cole, going back to your question, it's going to be, if Garrett Cole pitches a gem tonight, they're definitely going to try and bring him back. If he does not pitch a gem tonight, then everything's kind of up in the air because Garrett Cole did not have his best season this year.
Well, I don't think he. If I were him, I don't think he should opt out because the reason why I say that is because I think that he missed part of this year due to an elbow injury, and
yeah,
I'm also thinking that if he does opt out, I feel like Scott Boras and the Yankees will find a way to rework his contract.
Well, see, that's the problem with the Yankees as well. Juan Soto is also a Scott Boras client, so it's really the Yankees are going to have to deal a lot with that man. But
no, the Yankees, they're used to dealing with Scott Boras.
Okay.
Because Scott Boras has had a good history with signing players to longer-term contracts with the New York Yankees.
He's the biggest well-known agent in baseball.
Yeah, and last year he didn't have a great year, but I feel like he's going for redemption. But I read an article about Anthony Rizzo. I feel like the Yankees are most likely going to pick up his contract option. So basically, based on what I heard there, is that if they do, which is likely, then the Yankees' chances of keeping Juan Soto might be slim, which moves the Dodgers and Mets' chances in getting Juan Soto. But I feel like the Dodgers owners and Steve Cohen are probably going to have the highest bids for Juan Soto.
And that's the thing. Like, the Yankees have a lot to play with. Like, you're talking Rizzo's a free agent, LeMahieu's a free agent, Gleyber Torres is a free agent.
LeMahieu's
Verdugo's gone.
He has a year left on his contract.
Yeah, but if you're the Yankees, you could drop LeMahieu if you want to. It's possible.
Yeah, and then and then Jeff Passan kind of said why the Dodgers won't land Juan Soto because you got Ohtani, Yamamoto, Glasnow, and Smith to big contracts. But thanks to the Ohtani deferrals, this allows the Dodgers to sign another superstar with Ohtani.
Of course.
So that's why I'm kind of thinking the Dodgers, I'm kind of thinking that come this offseason, that the Dodgers, I feel like, are going to move up in the Juan Soto free agent sweepstakes with the Mets. But if the Yankees, because based on their financial situation, there's a chance they might not keep Juan Soto just because they have too much money in their pocketbooks when it comes to other players that are eating up their payroll.
Yeah. So the Yankees are in a tough situation right now. It's gonna be like, who do we prioritize more? And that's where the line is drawn. Who do we prioritize more? I would think Juan Soto would be top priority number one because of how well he's been playing and how much he changed the fortunes of the franchise.
What I'm saying is that he could pull a Freddie Freeman in 22, because remember Freddie Freeman? We predicted he was going to remain a Brave, but the Dodgers slipped up, went right up in the sweepstakes to sign him.
And look at what he's done. He's going to be World Series MVP.
It's looking like Freddie Freeman's going to be World Series MVP. I'm saying is, I'm not trying to get too excited about Juan Soto coming to LA. If he does, I would jump over the moon for that. But
yeah,
I just want to see what the market is for him. But I feel like the Dodgers are going to make an aggressive push for him.
Like I said, there's still a whole lot to be decided. I think we got to get through this World Series first, and then we'll kind of see how the market and how the teams as a whole approach this offseason and approach the sweepstakes.
I'm kind of torn right now where my free agent prediction on Juan Soto is, but if it were me right now, where I choose as he plays, for me, as of right now, I kind of have him going to the Dodgers realistically, because based on what I've heard and read on the reports that John Heyman wrote on his New York Post article, made me think that.
Yeah, there's a lot to think. If you're a Dodger fan, there's a lot of optimism there, but the expectation is New York Yankees are going to want him back. But the Yankees have so many other things to prioritize as well, with Garrett Cole and Rizzo and all these other free agents that they have coming up. So the Yankees are in a little bit of a rut right now about what to do, but they got to get through this World Series first. I think that's the main thing. Get through with the World Series first. See what kind of money comes into your organization. Look at the payroll that you have, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, and then talk about Jack Flaherty tonight. I mean, he's a hometown kid, and assuming that if Juan Soto becomes a Dodgers, he's one of the players that's most likely not going to wear Dodger blue next year.
Well, that's kind of a shocker. Well, they got him from the Detroit Tigers via trade, so that's part of one of the reasons why there's a concern as to whether Jack Flaherty is going to stay. But the Dodgers, you got to remember, they lost Gavin Stone, they lost Tyler Glasnow, so if you get rid of Flaherty, you're probably not going to have too big of a deficit with your starting rotation. Plus, you might have Clayton Kershaw for at least one more year.
Yeah, he confirmed he was coming back, and then we want to see if Bobby Miller can bounce back. We want to see if we also have a lot of good young pitchers in our farm system that could be ready for us soon. Teoscar Hernandez, I have him staying with the Dodgers. I could see an outfield with him and Soto, but that might eat up a lot of our payroll if we have both.
And that's another thing that we have to discuss with this whole Juan Soto thing. If you keep Teoscar Hernandez and you get Juan Soto, that could cripple you financially with the payrolls, and you might have to let some people go. So this Juan Soto sweepstakes is all going to come down to who can actually afford to get him with everything else going on.
For me, if I were to choose, it's between the Dodgers and the Mets.
Right.
And I know the Mets already have a set outfield, though, because Luis Angel Acuna is probably going to start in center field next year. If Juan Soto comes, that's probably going to move Brandon Nimmo to center, and that's probably going to put Soto in left and keep Starlin Marte in right.
Yeah, it's shaping out to be interesting. I think after losing the World Series 4 games to 1, I don't know if Juan Soto is going to want to come back to the Bronx, but the fans want him so badly, and the demographics and everything fit. It's so I'm torn between 3 teams. It's going to be interesting, but
the teams that I think are not going to get Juan Soto, I'm going to say the Blue Jays, the Giants. I'm going to put Philadelphia up there with the Yankees and Mets and the Dodgers.
Yeah, because we had a long discussion off air that the Phillies are not going to really be in position to get Juan Soto if they get him, because then they'd have to get rid of Nick Castellanos, who they might have to trade away, and all these other possibilities that the Phillies might do with their outfield. It's going to be hard for the Phillies to acquire him.
But thanks to the Ohtani deferrals, the Dodgers will be in on Juan Soto.
Yeah, I think now the Dodgers are more in it than the Phillies are. We had the Phillies as a front runner, but now I think that everything that's going on with that franchise right now, they might want to hold back on that.
Let's talk about who wins Game 5. I'm going to pick the Dodgers to win Game 5 because last night it was not good. I want the Dodgers to try to do it tonight, but I also have this dream scenario about clinching it at home on Friday night.
The Dodgers, like I said, I would get it done tonight. I think the Dodgers win the World Series regardless, but I think if you're the Dodgers, best case scenario, you get it done tonight. Not okay scenario, you get it done Friday night in Game 6. Worst case scenario for the Dodgers, if this goes to a Game 7, which is not likely, but I think the Dodgers win Game 5 and put it away tonight.
Well, we have a statement to talk about before we move on to football. Tony Clark released this statement on the incident last night. He said that we have been in regular contact with league security officials since last night's incident and will be closely tracking both the response to that incident and the protective measures taken going forward beginning tonight.
Well, that's a good way to put it. I mean, you got to take responsibility for how last night shook up in the first inning, and you really can't have an incident like that ever again.
Yeah, now on to football. I mean, before we get to our picks here, let's talk about first the Indianapolis Colts benching Anthony Richardson for Joe Flacco after telling Shane Steichen he wants a break from after the third quarter because he was tired. What a childish move.
Very immature, very unprofessional, and very stupid. I mean, let me put this in comparison. Tom Brady played 23 years, played to the age of 44, and he never asked for a break unless he was injured. Brett Favre played 297 consecutive regular season games without missing a snap, and he never asked for a break. Anthony Richardson's 23 years old, and he's asking for a break. And he's supposed to be this hybrid athletic quarterback that's supposed to be a pain in the butt for defense to tackle, and he's asking for a break after a long play. I mean, I've seen Patrick Mahomes have amazing runs with a bump ankle, and he doesn't ask for a break. He stays in the game. So this is really pathetic on his part, and it looks bad on the Colts' part, too, for allowing him to basically give him his demands and get him off the field. So if I'm the Colts right now, and we saw before we even came on the air, they're resting Anthony Richardson indefinitely for the rest of the season. So it's Joe Flacco time. But honest to God, this is something I've never seen before in an NFL situation. And I'm very disappointed.
Very disappointing what happened in Indy. But you know what? Joe Flacco, as we've seen before, he can give you great wins as a backup quarterback.
Now, he plays really well as a backup and as a starter. I know he's way past his Baltimore days, but this is a guy who's proven with the Jets, with the Browns, and with Baltimore that he can win football games. My question now going forward is, how long of a rest is Anthony Richardson going to take? Is he even going to be in consideration for starter in 2025? I think he is. But the problem with Richardson is you don't act like that in the middle of an NFL game. And we need to really take into consideration this generation of players, for the most part, has been disciplined. This is undisciplined. And I think that Shane Steichen's doing the right thing. Because Anthony Richardson needs to be taught a lesson.
Absolutely. He does need to be taught a lesson. But anyways, other games, well, obviously the Indianapolis Colts fell short to the Houston Texans. Stephon Diggs out for the year. But you know what? The Texans receiving core looks good without him.
Well, they're getting Nico Collins back next week. They're playing the Jets tomorrow night. We'll get into that later. Tank Dell is probably going to be the number one receiver tonight against the Jets. I know the Jets have this fantastic secondary, but the Jets are just a dysfunction at the junction. I think the Jets are going to be fine. Plus, they got Joe Mixon out of the backfield. They got Robert Woods, as you mentioned earlier. Dalton Schultz they still got. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans survive Week 9, but I think Week 10 they're going to be well on their way to being okay.
Oh, yeah, because if you talk about their Week 10 matchup, Detroit is going to be – that's going to be the game. The Detroit
Oh, boy.
Lions.
And you're getting Nico Collins back for that game.
Oh, I think the Texans will be well rested for that contest.
They're going to be – but the Lions, like I said, when we get into the Lions are not messing around for anybody. And I think this is going to be a really good, fun game to watch.
Well, I mean, you can't talk about that game with Tennessee because not surprised they put up –
Bad.
It just tells you how bad the Tennessee Titans are, but we'll get to that in a minute. But the first game we got to talk about is our favorite teams games. We'll start with the New England Patriots beating the New York Jets 2-2. Let me tell you, the New York Jets, with that roster, they should have beaten them 59-0. But look what happened. Drake May had a concussion. Jacoby Brissett came in, led a game-winning drive. And for me, I'm happy we got this win. But for the Jets, this was a loss that they should have not had. They beat the Patriots back in Week 3 in the Meadowlands, but the Patriots came in needing a victory.
And you know what? The Jets story continues. I think the Jeff Ulbrich honeymoon phase is not really working out too well so far. It's just a shame. It really is just a shame. I mean, the Jets came in with so much expectation and so much to be excited about. They bring in Devontae Adams and they fire Robert Saleh, and everything's just going nowhere. They're going nowhere. And I think that, honestly, I was talking to a couple of Jet fans that I'm friends with. I would be surprised if Joe Douglas gets booted because Joe Douglas has basically done nothing effective since the 2022 class. And I'll give him Will McDonald from last year's draft because Will McDonald is one of the best sack leaders in the game right now. But the Jets have done nothing. I mean, they got Aaron Rodgers, and what a bust he's turned out to be. So I'm really disappointed.
Talk about him at Madden League. When the Jets got Aaron Rodgers, they've missed the playoffs 2 years in a row with Aaron Rodgers at the helm.
Yeah, but this is something that is really a shame. Like, you had Aaron Rodgers last year, 4 snaps in, breaks his Achilles. Okay, well, we won't talk about that. You had an excuse. This year's no excuse. Aaron Rodgers should be playing at a much higher level than he has been, and he hasn't.
Oh, my gosh, yes. Everybody's like, is Aaron Rodgers washed? To be honest, I think he's washed.
It's looking like it. I mean, he during those 2 MVP seasons in Green Bay in 2020, 2021, he wasn't this bad. Like, this is something that I was expecting from him in 5 years, not this year at the age of 40.
He's not playing like how Tom Brady was in his late 40s with Tampa.
Yeah, that's the most surprising part. Like, we've seen Tom Brady at age 42, 43 put up really good numbers and win football games. And you look at Aaron at age 40, and it's been the opposite. I mean, you look at guys that go to a different team late in their career. Some have success, some don't. I mean, you look at Brady with the Buccaneers. You look at Peyton Manning with the Broncos. You look at Matt Stafford with the Rams. Aaron Rodgers has just been a shell of himself since coming to MetLife.
Oh, absolutely. Another game we got to talk about here. Tua Tagovailoa did a great job in his first game back with the Miami Dolphins from concussion. But, man, the Arizona Cardinals spoiled it with a Chad Ryland field goal. I'm like, how's Chad Ryland this good now since he left my Patriots?
I guess the environment change helps him out. The Arizona, first of all, I agree with you. Tua Tagovailoa for his first game back in a while looked pretty good. But I am going to say this. The Arizona Cardinals were not going to lie down for this team. They played really well defensively. They didn't break in certain situations. Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably the best combo in football, arguably, for the next 5 years. James Conner is a beast at running back. He ran through that Dolphin secondary like crazy. The Cardinals had a good win. You got to give them a pat on the back for that and just shake their hand and say, you know what? Good job. You did what you needed to do.
And as for the Dolphins, a lot of fans are like, fire Mike McDaniel for handling the whole Tua concussion thing. You know what? I'm going to say this was not his fault.
Listen, you can control what you need to control. I mean, I think the way the Dolphins handled the Tua situation was poor. I think they could have gotten better quarterback play for sure over those last 5 weeks, but I mean, listen, if they can keep up with it, if they can play the way they played last week, I think they're going to be fine. But they
I
have a
gotta
lot of
say,
catching up
this
to
was
do.
a quality loss for the Miami Dolphins. I didn't think they would lose that way, but even though that they're in a 2-5 hole, obviously they're going to say they're not going to beat the Buffalo Bills because obviously they can't play well in Orchard Park.
So if you're the Dolphins right now, you're staring at 2-6, and where do you go from there? Well, you got to win 7 of 9 games.
No, I think they're going to be on a hot streak after the Buffalo game.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing the Dolphin fans have to hope for. If after Buffalo, there's no playing around. You play the Jets twice. You play the Patriots, I think, once or twice, I believe.
Well, the Patriots already beat the Dolphins already beat the Patriots without Tua with Snoop.
So you play the Jets twice, the Patriots once, and if we go over their schedule really quick, just because I want to make sure that that I know what they're going up against for the final 9 weeks. The Miami Dolphins, if you look at their schedule, after Buffalo, let's say they lose in Buffalo, okay? They dropped to 2-6. They got the Rams and Los Angeles, the Raiders, the Patriots again, the Packers, the Jets twice, the Texans, the 49ers, and the Cleveland Browns. Tough.
That looks like a tough schedule. I mean, I feel like the Packers will probably be another challenging game for the Miami Dolphins. And then I feel like the Niner game will probably be a loss, but you're looking at a 9-8 finish for the Miami Dolphins.
Well, you're going to beat New England. You're going to beat the Raiders. You should beat the Rams. Jets, you should beat twice. The Niners are going to be tough. The Browns and Texans. Well, Texans are going to be a tough one. I think that's going to be a tough one. But I think overall, it looks like a 6-3 record for the rest of the way. If you can go 7-2, that'd be a lot better.
Yeah, I would expect Miami to finish strong, but a lot of people are calling for Chris Greer to be fired, and I'm like, that guy's been there for a long time. What has he done since being the GM of the Miami Dolphins?
I mean, it's like I said before, you can only control what you can control. And I think at this point, the Dolphins are up against it. But I think they got a lot of work to do. They shouldn't have lost the Cardinal game, but you know what? That was something you can't control. The Cardinals played a really good game. The Dolphins looked really good in a loss. So there's nothing you can really do. That's just one that you couldn't let slip away.
Oh, absolutely. But another game we got to talk about here is how on earth the Cleveland Browns beat a really good Baltimore Ravens team that should have beaten the Browns pretty handedly.
Jameis Winston, I think, played the game of his life. This is the guy who filled in for Deshaun Watson because Deshaun Watson tore his Achilles and he's done for the year. Baltimore had their chances to really put this game in their possession late, but the Browns just did not give up. I mean, I was shocked about this game more than the Commander Bear game, which we'll get into later. But the Browns, I don't know how they did it. I really don't know how they did it.
Yeah, we didn't know how they did here. And then, anyways, the Bears Commanders game, man, that was a crazy finish. And the Commanders found a way to beat him after that Hail Mary. And as for the Bears, Matt Eberflus did a lot of wrong than right.
A lot of mistakes. First off, I even wrote down the mistakes. That's how much they did wrong. Mistake number 1. 6 minutes left in the game. You're trying to go for the winning score. Why are we handing the ball off to an offensive lineman at the goal line? That's mistake number 1.
It's a fullback play. You don't have a fullback. You need an extra blocker.
I know, but at the same time, it's like it was just executed poorly. So that's number 1. Number 2. Apparently, Matt Eberflus said that the 13-yard completion to McLaurin that set up the Hail Mary was a play that didn't really matter. Hold on, because number 3, Tyreek Stevenson taunting the fans in FedEx Field for 4 seconds during the Hail Mary play. That looks bad because you have one of your players not set up at all for a big important play. Last play of the game. And Tyreek Stevenson was goofing around with the fans. That's number 3. Number 4, in a Hail Mary situation, when you're throwing the ball up for grabs in the end zone and you have to play defense, you bat the ball down. Tyreek Stevenson batted the ball up in the air, and Noah Brown was there to catch it. So, the Bears, did so many mistakes in that fourth quarter. And listen, I'm not taking anything away from Jane Daniels. I think that play officially stamped him as Rookie of the Year offensively. Offensive Rookie of the Year cemented for Jane Daniels. I think that was the...
You're forgetting about Caleb Williams. I thought he had a decent game, too.
I mean, Caleb Williams had a decent game, but nothing crazier than that. I mean, Jane Daniels did not have his best game up until the end, but he played really, really well. Both rookie QBs played really, really well. But I think Jane Daniels, with the way this season's been going for the Commanders, I think he cemented himself as Offensive Rookie of the Year. But now, back to the Bears side of things, Matt Eberflus, like I said before, said that the 13-yard play that set up the Hail Mary didn't really matter. I think that you're full of crap, and it did matter. And Matt Eberflus should be on the hot seat right now after this loss, because if the Bears don't make the playoffs, that's the game that they're going to be looking at and saying, wow, we really kicked ourselves in the butt there. And I also think that Shane Waldron should also be fired because he's been a horrible play caller for the Bears for the most part. I think Caleb Williams has made it work thus far, but the play calling has been atrocious.
Shane Waldron, I think you got to need a new offensive coordinator. If I were the Chicago Bears, and Matt Eberflus, I don't think he's it as a head coach.
He's not it. And the problem is there aren't a lot of great offensive-minded coaches that are willing to take the Bears' job. Maybe a couple. Well, I can see Bobby Slowick of the Houston Texans maybe taking the job, but that's really it. There aren't a lot of candidates.
Or Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator.
Or Ben Johnson, that's a good one too. I mean, there's a lot of good offensive play callers that are going to stay where they are because the Bears, as promising as Caleb Williams has looked, I don't know how many people are going to want to take that job. I think, like you said, Ben Johnson and Bobby Slowick are like the two best candidates, but that's it.
Well, anyways, now let's talk about the Raiders and Chiefs game real quick. I wanted the Raiders to win this football game. They had their chances, but they just never got it done.
It's unfortunate. The Raiders are just, oh my God, they're bad. It's just, you want them to do it. You want them to beat Mahomes, and then they just can't. It's just, he's their kryptonite. I mean, Mahomes has had a couple of great plays this year where he looks invincible. But then he throws silly interceptions. Did you know Mahomes has a touchdown interception ratio of 8-9? He's thrown more interceptions than touchdowns, and this team is 7-0. That's crazy.
That is crazy. You're definitely right about that. And for the Raiders, they missed out on a lot of chances to score.
They had a lot of chances. They couldn't capitalize. Gardner Minshew is just not it. If I were the Raiders and you see this problem with O'Connell and Minshew not being effective, I would probably go back to the drawing board if I'm Antonio Pierce and probably get your own guy.
Yeah, Antonio Pierce is the guy. I really like what he's doing with the Raiders, but he has a bad roster right now.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before with certain teams that they don't have a good the coaching is good, but the roster is not. I think that's the problem with Antonio Pierce and the Raiders right now. The roster stinks. And
the coaching's there. The coaching's good.
The coaching's there, but the roster stinks. Like other than Brock Bowers and Max Crosby, who are you really dependent on? Plus, you lost Devontae Adams, so that even kicks you even more further into the ground.
Well, Bryce Young returned as the Panthers starting quarterback, but the results were not shocking because the Denver Broncos continue to pile up wins. And I'll tell you, Bo Nix is probably climbing up the rookie leaderboard.
I mean, you got Caleb Williams, you got Bo Nix, and you got Jaden Daniels all doing well in their rookie seasons. I mean, Bo Nix, it took him a while to get going. It took him a little bit to get going. The first couple weeks were not good. But you know what? I like the way this guy throws the football. I like his dual threat ability as both a runner and a passer. I think that he's very good as a leader. And I think that the Broncos as a whole are thriving off this kid. And I think Sean Payton loves what he's seeing.
Well, and then Sunday Night Football, man. The Cowboys had a chance to come back. We didn't see a video from Stephen A. Smith, but you know what? It's the same old Cowboys against the 49ers.
I mean, we didn't need a video from Stephen A. Smith. I mean, we've seen enough. The Cowboys are bad. They're 3-4 now. The Cowboys actually did make it a game late. They tried to come back. There were 2 CeeDee Lamb touchdowns to go from 30-13 to 30-24. Actually, no, 30-10 to 30-24, something like that. But anyway, It was Niners from the get-go. It was all Niners from the get-go. George Kittle on National Tight Ends Day caught a touchdown pass. We had a couple big playmakers. The Niners, despite the injuries, did what they had to do at home. Um, the Cowboys, man, I don't know what to. They're going to come up with more excuses. I mean, before this game, there were excuses of having fans enter the facility during practice as a distraction. I think that's full of BS. I think that it really doesn't hinder you from playing at a high level. Dak Prescott got this big contract and he's done nothing this year. And honestly, if I'm Mike McCarthy, I'm scared beyond belief that I could lose my job this year.
Do you think Mike McCarthy's even scared now?
I think he's scared. I mean, listen, the Cowboys, to get to the 12-win mark that we thought they were going to reach, they have to win 9 of 10 games. You got to play the Commanders twice. You got to play the Eagles twice. Do you think they're going to win those games?
No.
Exactly. So
of course not.
So you're already out of luck in the division race. You're playing the Giants one more time. You could probably beat them because the Giants are doo-doo. But it's just like the Cowboys. I don't get it. All this talent. And I think defensively, losing Dan Quinn hurt more than anything. And you know what? They're not going to admit that. But losing Dan Quinn was the worst thing that could happen to them.
I feel like Mike Zimmer's done a decent job, but defense is still bad.
The defense is not good enough. It's definitely not Dan Quinn level, for sure. For sure, it's not Dan Quinn level.
It's not. You're right about that. But Monday night, man, the New York Giants lost again, and a lot of Giant fans are questioning now. What they're wanting. Tommy. I know you would chant that if you're at a Giants game.
Bring on Tommy Cutlets, please. Please.
Tommy DeVito.
Please bring on Tommy Cutlets. I can't with this guy and Daniel Jones anymore. I cannot with him anymore. Watching him down by 8, the last 2 drives, a fumble and an interception. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm so fed up. But you know what the thing is, too? It's the fact that the Giants are, like, I think a top 4 team right now in the draft order right now, if the season ended today. They need to start over. Like, Brian Dable needs to stay for one more year, but he needs to get his own guy. I cannot stomach Daniel Jones anymore. I can't. Because this guy gives you chances to win games, and he breaks your heart. It's crushing.
I totally agree with that. Daniel Jones, he's not the Daniel Jones of 22.
Well, I don't know what happened in 22. I guess, like, the football gods just gave him the magic to not turn the football over a couple years ago. But where is the intensity from Brian Dable whenever Daniel Jones makes a mistake? Where is that intensity? Where is it?
There's no intensity there right now. The Giants, they're going to play the Commanders again. And the last time, you know what happened when those two teams played? They were neck and neck, but the Commanders got the win.
Well, what happened was the Commanders kicked 7 field goals and didn't score a touchdown and won. But that was the Commanders team back in week 2 that was still trying to find their footing. Now they found their footing, and the Giants have not. They've regressed.
So what we're going to we'll talk about that game in a minute, because I pictured, if you're at a Giants game right now, I would picture you wearing a paper bag saying Tommy DeVito.
I would have my homemade mother's chicken cutlets, bring it to the game, and say, we want cutlets.
Why do you call them cutlets?
Because Tommy DeVito said at a press conference of what life is like being a backup quarterback. He said, oh, it's great. You know, I sit back, I do my own laundry, and my mom makes me chicken cutlets, and I eat them.
Well, you got Drew Lock too, and Drew Lock has got a good arm, but Drew Lock's also turnover prone.
That's the thing. Like, Tommy DeVito put together a 3-game winning streak last year. I'm more confident with a cutlet guy working at Lavotti's than a guy who's turnover prone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Drew Lock has a big arm to throw the football down the field.
He does. But again, he turns the ball over a lot. Tommy DeVito does not.
Oh, I'm sure you're going to hear the Giant fans wanting Tommy DeVito in the game on Sunday.
Laurel, let me tell you something. I'm so scared to go to Giants games because I don't want my streak to end. As a lot of you people know, my record at Giants games, there's a perfect 8-0 and I'm scared that record's gonna end. I'm scared.
Do you have plans to go to a game this year to see the Giants at MetLife Stadium?
I'm not sure.
Well, you better not risk it this year if I were you, because going to a Giants game is going to be torture for you every Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Watching them is torture every Sunday.
Yeah, and then my Patriots, I'll tell you, we're not as bad as your Giants this year.
Well, you got a big win over the Jets. I will give you that. I think that there's a lot of good vibes surrounding the team. I think that not having Drake May because of concussion protocol stinks for sure, and you're probably going to...
We don't know if he's going to play Sunday against the Titans, so anyways, we'll go to our Week 9 picks. Well, we don't know. We're not going to have too much time talking about this game because the Houston Texans are going to come into Gotham City. They're going to beat the New York Jets.
Yep, pretty handily.
Because CJ Stroud, do I want to even watch this game?
No. It's Halloween. I'm going to be giving kids candy for Halloween, so I'd rather do that than watch this game.
Same here. I would want to watch it, but if assuming the Texans blow out the Jets, I might want to fall asleep.
Like I said, kids are going to be trick-or-treating, and you can give them candy.
Well, the New Orleans Saints are taking on the Carolina Panthers, a rematch of Week 1. Let's talk about the Saints for a minute. The Saints were held to 8 points to the Los Angeles Chargers. That is inexcusable.
It's a very bad situation right now in New Orleans. I think that right now Dennis Allen is praying for his life every waking moment because after starting 2-0, you lose Derek Carr, you have Spencer Rattler, you've replaced him at one point in that game, and I think right now it's looking bleak in New Orleans, and I think Dennis Allen might get fired. He might be the second coach to get fired in the cycle.
I'm going to pick the Carolina Panthers to win this football game. They don't have Derek Carr. I have a feeling that if the Panthers win this game, then Dennis Allen is gone.
I'll tell you right now, if they lose to the Panthers, Dennis Allen's gone.
So you're picking Carolina to win this game?
I'm picking the Saints because they're supposed to win this game. If they don't, bye-bye, Dennis Allen.
I'm picking the Panthers because I just think this is two bad teams, and I don't know who. I don't really trust the Saints at this point.
I mean, when you've lost 6 in a row, it's not a good look. But again, like this is a team that you should beat. If you don't beat them, then you're bad officially.
Well, the Washington Commanders are at MetLife Stadium to play the Giants. You know what, Matt? Hear me out. The Washington Commanders, I'm going to say they're going to win 63-0.
Oh, my God.
I'm very harsh on the Giants in this game because the first time they played, the Commanders barely won that game by field goals. And now this is a different Commander team with Jaden Daniels where I'm probably going to see a lot of points on the board and a good defense.
I'll say 34-0 Commanders.
Am I just being too exaggerative?
Yeah, I think you're playing the number a little bit, but that's fine.
I'm just saying it. What I'm really trying to say is that the Giants are this bad that their defense can't do any squat against teams like this.
I mean, the only good player for the defense has been Sexy Dexter Lawrence has been the only bright spot for that
Dexter
defense.
Lawrence, him and Kayvon Thibodeau. That's a good combo on that front of the defense.
Yeah, Dexter Lawrence currently leads the league in sacks, so that's the lone bright spot for the defense. But other than that, it's been really
Dexter Lawrence should be a Pro Bowler.
He should.
Well, the first time that Tua Tagovailoa is playing the Buffalo Bills since his concussion is at Orchard Park. Man, who do I want in this game? I'm going to pick the Miami Dolphins in a shocker.
Well, you mentioned earlier that the Dolphins don't play well in Orchard Park, and I'm going to stick to that. I think that even though the Buffalo Bills are at home and Tua is coming off a really good game in his first game back, I think that the Buffalo Bills have the ability to win this game in their home stadium.
I picked the Dolphins because I picked the Dolphins to beat the Bills in the first matchup.
And that didn't work.
No, because the Bills just handed them their butt. They handed their.
And then Tua got concussed as well that game.
Well, the LA Chargers are going the north. Like, I'm talking about Northern Ohio. Lake Erie, Ohio.
Right.
Playing the Cleveland Browns and Jameis Winston. don't underestimate the Browns after what they did to the Ravens last week. I'm going to pick the Chargers, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as what you think.
I think the Chargers are going to barely get by this one. I think that even though Cleveland is up and down and James Winston is going to be having the keys to the starting job at this point, I think the Chargers win this one, but it's not going to be blowout. I think it's going to be closer than people think.
Well, this is a game I would want to watch. This is a battle of teams that have barely more than 3 wins. The New England Patriots visiting the Tennessee Titans in Nashville. The Titans got embarrassed by the Detroit Lions, and the Patriots came off a big one. This is a game where I'm like, I would want to watch this game in bed the whole time because there's going to be times during the game whereas they don't score anything until the fourth quarter.
Oh my God. Yeah. I did a little yawning before that. Sorry about that because this game does not entice me at all. I'm going with the Patriots because the Titans are so bad. It's unacceptable.
I'm picking New England to get this win. We're probably going to go on a nice 2-game winning streak here just because the Titans, not the fault of Brian Callahan for why they're this bad. I just think the entire team of the Tennessee Titans is awful.
They're awful. They're beyond repair. You had your faith in Will Levis. I think that faith is gone, right?
Not really. No, he's hurt right now. So I gotta be patient with what Will Levis is when he comes back from injury.
I mean, and it's funny. Their lone win came against the Miami Dolphins.
Yes, that's embarrassing.
Bad.
Well, the Dallas Cowboys are going to Atlanta. Yes. And they're playing a Falcons team with Kirk Cousins that really knows the Cowboys pretty well. Stephen A. Smith should laugh at this game if Young-Hae Koo kicks a game-winning field goal. I'm gonna ride with the Falcons because they had a great win in Tampa last week.
And this game is in Atlanta, correct?
Yes, at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium where Super Bowl 54 will be at.
Yeah. I like this Falcons team a lot. I think that they've played really well, and I think that they've, have satisfied my expectations. I think that they are playing the way I expected them to after a dastardly bad week 1. I think that they've come alive, and I think I was very impressed with their win against the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay last week. And I think they're going to continue the momentum. I'm going to go Atlanta.
Well, the Raiders, they're playing the Bengals in Cincy for the first time since that wild card game in the playoffs. Right. This is a get-right game for Joe Burrow because after the Bengals got humiliated by the Philadelphia Eagles, this is where the Bengals pick it up. Give me Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and the Cincinnati Bengals.
I got to go with the Bengals here, and I think one of the problems last week was they didn't have T. Higgins. They should be getting him back, so I'm going to go with the Bengals here in this one.
Well, next up, the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix visit the Ravens. This is a good head coaching matchup between John Harbaugh and Sean Payton. I'm going to pick the Ravens in this one. I don't see them losing 2 in a row.
The Ravens are a really interesting team. They're a good power run-heavy team, and I think the Browns did a good job containing that. The Broncos have a really good passing attack. I think that's one of the things that makes them unique. And Bo Nix has done really well. I am going to go with the Ravens in this one just because I think they have more experience on their team. And I think a rookie quarterback like Bo Nix is going to struggle against that pass rush in secondary. So I'm going to go with the Ravens in this one.
Well, the Chicago Bears visit the Arizona Cardinals in the desert. There have been a lot of memorable games between those two teams in the desert with the Dennis Green rant and you call it. But I'm going to pick the Arizona Cardinals to win this game. I don't really trust Matt Eberflus in the coaching in that end because I think the Arizona Cardinals, they were 2-4 at one point, and they are the Detroit Lions of 22.
You brought up a good comparison. Last year the Arizona Cardinals were in it for a lot of games, but they didn't go their way. Now this year, their luck has turned around. They're winning games that they really shouldn't be winning, but they're playing really competitive football on top of that. So I think that they're getting fortunate too. I think that on top of this, I think the Bears are a good team. I don't think they're a great team. I think the Arizona Cardinals right now are in first place in the NFC West. At this moment, I think they're going to retain first place. I'm going to go with the Cardinals.
I picked the Jacksonville Jaguars to beat the Jaguars to beat the Packers last week, but you know what happened? They got unlucky. They played well, but they just were unlucky. So I'm going to pick the Philadelphia Eagles to win this game. I just think the Jaguars' schedule now is just too brutal.
The Jaguars are in for a rude awakening. I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on Doug Peterson being fired, but you know what? You can't control what you can control with the season that you're having right now.
And I think the interesting thing on top of that, if we just stay with the Jaguars and Eagles for a second, this is Doug Peterson versus his former team.
Oh, yeah, that should have been a national TV game on Sunday Night Football, but I don't know why they got that game out of there.
Beats me.
I was like, I wanted to see that game in prime time because Doug Peterson should go up against the Eagles in prime time.
It would have been a good storyline, but I think because the Jaguars are not in a good spot right now, I think that's why they took it out.
Well, the Rams are in a get-right game. The Seattle Seahawks, since that 3-0 start, they've kind of fell down to earth, like you said. So I'm going to pick the LA Rams to come into Lumen Field to beat the Seahawks.
Well, the Rams have Cooper Kupp back, and they should be getting Puka Nacua back soon. I think having Cooper Kupp back is massive for the Rams, and I think I'm going to go with them. I think if they go into Seattle, quiet the crowd, the 12th man, and get the win.
Take a look at the NFC West standings here. I'm trying to see. Well, the Cardinals and Niners are both tied for first place, and the Rams are 3-4. So I'm kind of thinking I feel like everybody should be 4-4 by the end of this week.
Well, part of it is because Seattle's 4-4 as well. So the Cardinals, the 49ers, and the Seahawks are 4-4 right now. The Rams are 3-4 because they had their bye week. The other teams in the NFC West have not had their bye week yet. It could be 4-4. Like, this could be a very tight race. And the reason why Arizona's in first place right now is because they have a perfect 2-0 division record. They beat the 49ers and they beat the Rams earlier this season. So I think that's one of the reasons why Arizona's in first. But I think their point differential is also one of the reasons why they're in a decent position.
Well, America's game of the week in Green Bay. The Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. Talk about two teams with identical records, 6-1, 6-2. Minnesota's luck is about to run out, which I will talk about in a minute, because I feel like the Vikings are starting to fall off a cliff slowly. But in this particular matchup, you know Green Bay is going to be hungry to beat a team like the Detroit Lions. But in this game, I'm picking my guy Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers to win this football game.
And this game's in Lambeau, correct?
It is in Lambeau Field.
Well, this is interesting because
Jordan Love got hurt last week, and we don't know if we're going to see him or Malik Willis, but I have a feeling Jordan Love will probably play in this game.
Well, the interesting thing about this is that a majority of the Lions' schedule this year has been indoors. They haven't been outdoors so far this season, which I think is an interesting thing to look at. Because when they're indoors, they're great. When they're outdoors, not as much. So I'm going to go with the Packers here as well. I think the Lions are going to be tested here for the first time. And I think that they are going to be in for a battle, but I think the Packers win that battle.
The Lions are more of an indoor team. And I think the Detroit Lions, you picked them to win the division, and you think that's going to come true still?
I still think it's going to come true, yes.
Well, the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday Night Football. Is that a game to watch? No, but...
What? Huh? What? It freeze? Did he freeze? Okay, so we had an interesting situation there. Loro's screen froze. Um, I'm still here. Hopefully we get Loro back. Um, in the meantime, I will give you my picks, and then Loro could probably come back at some point, and then we'll finish off the picks. Week 9, we had the Vikings and Colts. The Vikings are coming off a 2-game losing streak. They are going to they're playing the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts benched Anthony Richardson earlier this week for Joe Flacco. The Minnesota Vikings are at home. They're a 5.5-point favorite. I'm going to go with Minnesota in this one, just because the Colts are their game plan just kind of blew up in their face. And then last but not least, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium on Monday Night Football. Chiefs are the only unbeaten team left. Buccaneers are not going to have their top 2 receivers in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, so they're in a little bit of trouble here. Baker Mayfield, the last time he played in Tampa Bay in Kansas City was in that playoff game in 2020 where he had the game of his life in a playoff situation. But that was as the Cleveland Browns. This is a different circumstance. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs here just because I think that the home crowd is going to be beneficial for them. And we might see Taylor Swift at this game. I'm not 100% sure where she's going to be sitting. She'll probably be sitting in the owner's booth, but we'll see. So we have 2. Let's actually get into college football, actually, while we're here, while we're waiting for Loro to come back. While we get into college football, we'll go right here. Actually, college basketball starts November 4th, the day after Game 7 of the World Series, if that starts. Let's go to college football. We have a couple interesting games.
Sorry, Matt.
Oh.
We're dealing with technical difficulties on my end, but we were just talking about the Vikings and Colts game. I'm saying the Vikings' luck has kind of ran out. So
yeah, 100%.
I'm going to say in this game, I'm picking the Colts. I feel like the Chicago Bears are going to be way better than Minnesota is.
At this point in the year, I can agree with you. I think that maybe, just maybe, I did say before you came off the air, I did say that the Minnesota Vikings are probably could win this game. I think the Colts benching Anthony Richardson, while it's a good move, it's in Minnesota. I got the Vikings winning this one.
Oh, absolutely. I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to get the victory here. And then on Monday Night Football, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who lost basically Chris Godwin for the year, but they're going to get Mike Evans back. So I'm going to pick the Chiefs to beat Baker and Tampa.
I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs to remain undefeated. This game is in Arrowhead. It's going to be loud. I think the Chiefs go 8-0.
Are you still thinking a three-peat is in the works for the Kansas City Chiefs?
It's possible. I mean, they've been the most healthy team so far this year, arguably.
Yes, they've been pretty healthy for the most part, that's for sure. But anyways, here we'll talk some basketball here. I mean, we talked about opening night last week, but talk about the Lakers' 3-1 start. I mean, they won the first 3 games at home, and then they lost a tough one in Phoenix. They let that game get away. But they're going back to Cleveland to play the Cavs, and that's LeBron's hometown.
And I think that's interesting because that's the kid from Ohio, the kid that people talk about. But that's going to be a battle of, I think, really 2 really good teams. We mentioned the Cleveland Cavaliers have a lot of talent, and I think the coaching change, I think, was necessary. Not having Coach Bickerstaff on the roster, I think, really helps them out. And I think that Donovan Mitchell and company are going to play a very competitive game, but the Lakers have surprised me with how they started the year. And I think that J.J. Redick has been very smart handling his players.
Oh, yeah. He's. I feel like this was something that Darvin Ham did not do.
No, it didn't. I think Darvin Ham got a little bit more consumed with the players, and I think that he tried to be a players guy and try to relate to the players, but it didn't translate to overall success. They won the in-season tournament, but that's not really saying much.
Well, before we talk about some college football here, we have to talk about somebody is throwing out the ceremonial first pitch in Game 5 of the World Series. It's Godzilla Matsui.
It's Hideki Matsui?
It's going to be Hideki Matsui that will throw it out. And I'm like, That dude is a Yankee legend.
He really is. He was something special. It's a shame the Yankees didn't bring him back after he won the World Series MVP.
He was already old at the time. He was like 34, and then he went to the Angels, and I'm like, the Yankees weren't going to overpay Hideki Matsui.
That's a good point. But then after he went to the Angels, his career kind of evaporated after that.
The thing about Matsui, was that World Series in 2009, he hit over 400 in that World Series.
Oh, he was incredible. It's like what Freddie Freeman is doing now.
Yeah, and then Hideki Matsui had home runs. He drove in 6 runs in one of those games.
Yep.
And you talk about the early Yankees dynasty when Derek Jeter won those MVPs.
Yeah, no, that was a good time to be a Yankee fan. You had a lot of good contributors. You had Bernie Williams there. You had Paul O'Neill there. You had the core four. You had Mo, who was a setup guy at the time. He wasn't the closer officially during the '96 series. So it was a very good time to be a Yankee fan. But you had a lot of players that stepped up that you hardly even knew about.
Yeah, we hardly knew about, like Rivera and all that, but anyways, for college football, you were saying that on the show is that you were looking at this?
I was looking at a couple of games.
What couple games are you excited about this weekend?
Okay, so for college football, there's a couple of interesting matchups. First off, you have Penn State, Ohio State at 12, which is shocking. This should be a primetime game for sure because of Penn State, Ohio State, those are two of the heavy hitters in the Big Ten. And then you also look at this schedule. You got to look at another game. You got Georgia, Florida playing. You got Texas Tech versus Iowa State. Iowa State is undefeated right now. They're 7-0. You also got Indiana Hoosiers, who are 8-0, going to Michigan State. Hoosiers trying to make it into the playoff, which is now 12 teams. You also got games like TCU Baylor, which is a Big 12 matchup. Kentucky, Tennessee, interesting. And then you got Louisville and Kentucky and Clemson. That's also interesting as well. But for me, looking at this schedule, I think the most enticing game on this schedule, in my opinion, I mentioned it before, it's got to be Penn State, Ohio State, because this could decide who challenges Oregon for the Big Ten championship. And what's interesting, Loro, is that in the Big Ten right now, we have 3 undefeated teams. That's Oregon, who's playing Michigan this week at 3:30. Michigan's not as good as they used to be. You got Indiana, who's 8-0. They're a surprising team with a new head coach. And then Penn State, who is 7-0, and they are playing really, really good football. So we're in a situation where 3 teams are undefeated right now. They're not going to play each other. But the problem is the Big Ten does not have any divisions. That's something that needs to change. Because if you have divisions in the Big Ten, you could probably get out of this problem of having 3 unbeatens.
Oh, yeah, you're probably going to see Oregon and Ohio State play in the national championship game, and then the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, definitely. Ohio State is really, really good. Is a really good football program. Although Nebraska put them to the test earlier this week. Alabama's on a bye, so you will not be seeing them this week. BYU is on a bye this week. Other notable teams that are on a bye this week. You also got Texas on a bye this week. Quite a few. My Rutgers Scarlet Knights are on a bye this week. So a lot of the teams that we support are not playing this week. However, we got some good matchups.
Well, Florida and Georgia are going to be playing in Atlanta and Tampa in 26 and 27 because Everbank Stadium is going to have a big-time renovation.
That's right, because the Tampa Bay area, as we both know, got hit pretty hard by Hurricane Milton.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. Because Everbank Field is going to be, whatchamacallit? Everbank Field, they're still playing at Everbank Field this year.
Wow, really?
I think so, yeah.
Interesting.
But anyways, Matt, hope you enjoy Game 5. I'm sure I'll FaceTime you then.
Take care, everybody.